Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode on Build for Scale, where enterprise tech meets business growth. My name is Loveth Wachuku. I am your host. I help enterprises build secure and scalable systems. Today's discussion is on API-first integration and its role in enabling scalable enterprise architecture. On this session with me is Adekombi Remy, who is the COO of Crown Interactive. Remy, thank you for joining us today. I'm glad you were able to make it despite your busy schedule.
That's fine.
All right, let's go into discussions. Years back, organizations built applications first.
Yeah,
Then they connected them later.
correct.
All right. So from past events, we've seen that this process led to complex integration processes and also too many duplicated data. Let's travel back to today. Look at modern enterprises. They no longer operate in silos. Every application, every device, every platform is constantly exchanging data. Now, as these organizations or enterprises excel in digital transformation, the need to effectively connect systems is becoming a business need. All right, not just a technical one. Let's throw context into this discussion. From your perspective, what does API-first integration mean in an enterprise environment? And why has it become an important enterprise architectural principle?
Okay. Thank you once again for inviting me. API first integration actually means the ability to be able to define all of your contracts first before writing any line of code at all. So it basically means sitting down, if I'll put it in plain context, it basically means sitting down in a room, defining the purpose of what you want to build and how you want to build it. Then getting everybody that is involved in that entire process to sit down and say, this is exactly what we want. At that point, you're basically just defining everything that you want to come up with at the end. And based off that, you're able to define a set of APIs that are meant to be developed. That way, it is easy for the product owner to be able to say, yes, I know what the end product is going to be. It's also easy for the developer because he also knows what the endpoint is going to be. It's also easy for anybody who is integrating that because they also know what is expected of them or what they are going to integrate to. So before the first line of code is written, API first is the ability to define the contract of which systems are going to exchange data. You could look at what some organizations have done with this, especially fintechs in the country. They have created a platform basically out of defining APIs, and everybody just works with that set of API. Whatever is going on underneath is not anybody's business.
Yeah.
But what is important is that contract is done at every point in time. So that's what API first is defining your APIs before even writing any line of code. So everybody in the room understands what is supposed to be the end product even before you start. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Remy. Where does security come in?
So now, security, and I'm sure this is one question that keeps a lot of CIOs awake every night. My team is defining an API or a set of APIs. They want to expose it to the world, especially where it is being created as a platform. How do we ensure that we are safe, right? So the only way to define this is to say that openness is not insecurity. Is not a lack of security. Your ability to open up to everybody is not a lack of security. However, there are basic and very simple things that you must do in order for you to expose an API to anybody in the world or to expose your APIs as a platform. So first things first, things like rate limiting, token-based authentication, and all of those others are anomaly detection. All of those things needs to have been properly designed and structured, which is behind which your APIs will sit. So for example, before any call to any API which you expose to the world gets to even the API, everything that needs to be checked to be sure that that particular call is secure would have been done. So if you do that, and then whilst defining the API first integration and looking at all the APIs that you have looked at the APIs that is meant to be exposed internally, the APIs that is meant to be exposed to partners, the APIs that is meant to be exposed to the outside world. If you have defined all of those tiers, it then becomes easy to say, yes, this goes this way, or this is supposed to be authenticated that way. So you just build all of those things. Then every API or every API definition you then do after that falls into exactly that, and you're properly protected. Rate limiting, things like that are something that you must have as a standard when defining an API that is supposed to be exposed to the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Remy. Still on security. About 10-15 years ago, enterprises were protecting their servers and network perimeter. Today, they are protecting identity, they are protecting data, and increasingly APIs, right? Because APIs are becoming the digital front door to businesses. If these organizations expose their APIs, they are not just exposing their technologies, they are exposing business capabilities. If these business capabilities are not properly secured, right, the business becomes vulnerable. Let's take examples. Look at retails. Online stores are connected via APIs to payment gateways, to logistics providers, inventory systems, and other management systems they use, right? Now, if an attacker compromises their API, what happens? The other me and you place will become manipulated, right? Customers' data will become accessible, and even the checkout process will become interrupted, which leads to revenue loss and also a breach in customers' trust. Or we can also look at a commercial bank, right? If the bank exposes its API that allows for payments, say fund transfer and customer information verification, right? If that API is not properly secured with, say, strong authentication, authorization, encryption, and also continuous monitoring, it becomes the door to fraud.
That's correct.
Right? To fraud, to data exposure, and also to service interruption. This is why API security is no longer an infrastructural concern. Because it is fundamentally protecting customers' trust, business continuity, and also regulatory compliance. I have a question. Now, my question is, how should organizations balance the need of making APIs accessible for innovation while ensuring they remain secure, governed, and resilient?
So when APIs are defined, back to the original definition of API first, when the contracts that define an API or a set of APIs are created and everybody agrees to it, I believe, which from my own experience is typically what happens, is there is a lot of discussion into how it should work, what it should do, how it should handle its things. Now, this means that let me put a quote around this. Business people, that's the product managers, product owners, people from the business side of things. That I basically call them business people. So the business people would come and sit down in a room, an experienced developer also sitting down, that understands the system these APIs are expected to build on top. Because if you put a junior developer or a mid-level developer in, because they don't have a very good understanding of the system, chances are they will miss out some things or say some things are impossible. So when these contracts are being defined and the senior dev and everybody is in the room and they define the API, it is also important that somebody from information security is also sitting down in that room. This way, the APIs are designed and contracted, quotes, in a way that they already take care of security. There is quite a bit of regulations in Nigeria that protects data, NDPR, all of those agencies, making sure that data is protected. So it is the business and the function of the information security people to then say that cannot be exposed because of this cannot be exposed because of that, or this is fine, or we require special approval for this. If all of this is already done in that contracting quotes now of the API, where all of the details of what the API should do is defined, then it becomes easy. Because the truth is, from what we have seen now, it is very important that your security is handled at the layer before you even start speaking to the API.
Okay.
I'll tell you something from my experience. One of Nigeria's largest switches, I don't want to mention names, about 12, 13 years ago, we tried to do an integration with them, and they required us to come to their office. We signed a whole lot of documents. They took us to their server room, had us generate keys, and it is with that keys that we were going to be able to do transaction. At that time, that was the only way they could secure calls into their APIs.
Okay.
But these days, you really don't need that level of protection, because there are systems, there are apps already built that helps you monitor the traffic that is coming to your API. And even within your API, there are even services that you would call that would help you identify whoever is coming. I mean, there is OAuth, JWT, all of those guys are there. They basically help you identify who is calling your API, and based off what you had provided to them, typically a username and a password, and maybe it's a token of some sort provided to the person who is calling your API. If you are able to authenticate that person and also verify what is being passed to your API. So I have seen cases where somebody, let me use this example. Somebody tried to do a 500,000 naira transaction. The person was deducted 5,000 naira
Okay.
and from his card, and 500,000 was passed to the other system. That happens because there is no verification of that exact value in between. I mean, that guy is able to get away with the fraud, and the other system is getting in trouble if they don't know exactly what they are doing. So it's also very important that whatever is passed to your API is also verified. And all of this would happen at the contracting phase, quotes now, contracting phase, when you are discussing what the API should do and how it should do its stuff. Now, 100% you can't protect yourself every time. But the truth is, if you follow all of the best practices in how your API is called, when it is called, how it is called, what data is being passed, whether you're sanitizing that data, then you will be fine at the end of the day. So if I would put it in the context of this conversation, it is very important that that contract is properly established in the first place.
Okay.
And then the information security guys sitting in the same room when that contract is being done are then able to say, this is what we must protect and how we must protect it. And then everybody can move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Remy.
No worries.
Now, I want us to talk about scalability. How would you say your business has scaled? Is it by handling more users? Well, I don't think so, because for me, scalability is all about enabling businesses to introduce new products, new partners, and digital channels without
disrupting what they have.
Yes, exactly. Without redesigning the underlying architecture every single time.
Yep.
All right. Let's look at Nigeria commercial banks. Before now, say some 5-10 years ago, right? The channels to these banks might be branches, ATMs, internet banking, mobile applications. But look at the commercial banks today. They are supporting lots of services. They are supporting agency banking. They are supporting fintech partnerships, open banking APIs, and digital lending, merchants, acquiring, and also real-time and payments platforms like NIBS. And the thing about this is that all these services, every one of them has to communicate directly with the bank's core systems. All right. Now, look at it this way. Without a well-defined API architecture, right, every integration increases complexity.
True.
Now, I have a question. Let me read out my question.
Yes, please.
How does API first architecture help organizations to continue innovating without rebuilding integrations every time a new product, partner, or channel is introduced?
Okay. So, thank you for that question again. I try to use a bit of what I've learned over the years, especially as with this. Now, back to the beginning again. API first is defining the contract. Once that contract is defined, so imagine that the contract is in between the front end and the back end, where in this case the back end is just service and the front end is whatever you see, and there's something in between them that is a contract of how the front end is expected to pass its data back to the back end. Now you could swap your back end,
Okay.
like with majority of Nigerian banks in the last 5 years have swapped their core banking system. It is only with one of them that we knew that there was something going on.
Oh,
With
okay.
others, we never knew. That is the power of the APIs that they provide. In fact, I know a Nigerian bank that migrated over a year and a half. So they were swapping services by services, but the API contract remained. So every channel that they were servicing, whether it was from the web, whether from the mobile, whether it was via SMS, whether it was USSD, every one of them was still talking to an API. And behind that API, the services that actually processes those transactions were getting swapped. I'll give you another example. About 5-10 years ago, if you transferred money to someone, it was typically going to take about 20-30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe
Yeah.
24 hours for the money to get to the other side.
Yeah.
These days, if you do a transfer to anybody,
In seconds.
it gets to them immediately. Now, the truth is, the systems that are at the back of those APIs are getting swapped for faster ones.
Oh, okay.
And everything that is for us, the user, remains exactly the same
The
thing.
same.
I remember one Nigerian fintech company, they were switching their popular websites at some point from the old UI to the new UI. And when you go to the website, they'll tell you, well, we are switching to the new one, but here's a sneak peek of the new one. But then the old one was still working.
Yeah.
Both of them were live and most likely speaking to the same set of APIs at the back, but they wanted to modernize. And after a while, they switched off the old one and everybody was forced to deal with the new one. I like the old one, but it's okay. So that's the power of defining those APIs first. That's the power of sitting down and saying, this is exactly how this is going to work. And then, okay, let me use another example. About 3-4 years ago, just when I was going to stop coding actively, I was working with a female developer. I would fondly refer to her as Codess. And when we get the UI UX representation of what is expected to be designed, she was working on the front end. I was more of a back end developer. And we would sit down and look at the UIs and say, this is a service you are going to need here. This is what the service is going to look like. These are the fields that you expect. Basically just writing it out and documenting exactly what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And I would tell her, okay, so let's document this and put it in the developer portal we have in-house. And she would document it and put it there. And we would say, okay, so you can go away, go and design your UI. I can go away and go and design my backend based on this. And 2 days later or 3 days later, when we are testing, it is basically seamless because she understands what the contract says. I understand what the contract says, and we both just build for the same thing. Then you pretty much don't have a failure in between. There's also a Nigerian fintech current Nigerian fintech, one of the big ones, they have their entire developer documentation on their website. You basically go there. If you want to integrate payments into your mobile shop that you are creating and anything like that, just go to their website. The documentation is there. They have what is it called? Sample cards and everything there. You can basically integrate that without even talking to them. And when it is time to production, it's just a case of fulfilling their KYC requirements and maybe signing some other documents, and then they give you your live token and you're there. That's it, done. That
Makes
is
sense.
the power of defining those APIs, not that I want to integrate into your system and then you tell me, oh, you want to integrate in my system, what do you want to do? You want to sell data? Oh yeah, take this API. Or my developers will build the API that you would use, and then I have to do that. When another person comes with something that is slightly different from what you did, then they have to write another one. No. If the organization switches to the API first definition, the organization is even able to understand all that they have before they even get to the point of, okay, what are we now providing for people? So the API first also lets you scale. Yeah. I'll use an example. This one I'm actively involved in it with one Nigerian bank. Imagine that one of these telcos we have in Nigeria suddenly says, I am increasing the price of all of my data bundles.
Okay.
What happens? Do we switch APIs? What do we do? We don't. We basically update the list of the data bundles and it is immediately available to the guy on the front end. That way, there is no work. There is no amount of work to be done. No work at all, other than just slotting all of those data. Because that API that is speaking to whether it's USSD or whatever you are loading is already defined, and they just follow that. I think that explains that. Thank you.
Okay, still on scalability.
Yes.
I noticed that enterprises don't struggle because they have too many applications. If they are going to struggle, all right, it's because those applications were not designed to grow together. All right?
You're correct.
So, my question now is, do you think API first integration is more about the future than solving present integration needs?
So, the best way to put this is API first integration will help them solve their present problems.
Okay.
It would also solve the present problems, because it then means that they immediately start to standardize everything that they are doing. And of course, it then future proofs the business. I have been opportune to work with quite a number of systems. At the last count, it was a lot, right? And all of them at some point have to talk to each other, or maybe in silos of 5 or 6.
Okay.
They all have to speak to each other. And in speaking to each other, we adopted something that is called zero trust.
Yeah.
App A does not trust app B. App C does not trust app C. So if we all don't trust each other, it means that even in our exchange of data via the API first or the API contracts that we have defined, it's also protected.
Yeah.
So a breach in app A doesn't necessarily affect app B.
Yeah.
So so for organizations then to scale based off doing all of this, it is important that there is a mind shift from developing the apps and treating integration as an afterthought. So let me explain how that happens. You have a product, say for example, call it Snapbox for a lack of a better name. Snapbox needs to talk to Bitbox somewhere. Now, I am building Snapbox without thinking about whether it is going to ever need to connect or share data with Meatbox. Yeah. And that becomes a problem. By the time it is time to share data between both of them, because I have not considered that, I am forced to start thinking, okay, what's the easiest way? But if I had thought that they would at least speak to each other at some point, I would have exposed certain parts of my app, or had the discussion with the guys from the Meatbox and Snapbox, all of us together in a room. I have this data, you have that data, I need it. I have this data, you need it, and everybody's able to come together. That's what Facebook has been able to do today with WhatsApp into Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
So you could pretty much put a status on your WhatsApp and you can share it to Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Yeah.
Notice that was not there before.
Yeah.
But immediately they discovered that there's a need for that. They standardized it. And in standardizing that API, it allows them share data seamlessly between each other. And don't be surprised by the time you go to the Facebook marketplace and look at the Facebook APIs, there'll be APIs for you to share between your Instagram and your WhatsApp if you want to share.
Yeah.
I mean, today there is adverts on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So what else? There would be APIs to help you push all of those.
You're right.
So, I mean, that's how that works. You just need to start it. It's not too late to start.
Yeah.
You can start now and just make sure that you future-proof yourself. So it's fine.
So definitely, you're saying when building application, there should be a need.
There must be
a need
Yeah.
to think of future communication with other applications.
Exactly.
Thank you. All right. I want us to tilt a bit. Let's say API first integration as a revenue enabler.
Yeah.
Right? Because the truth is that look at the banks.
Plenty of them. Plenty of them who treat their APIs as a product.
Thank you.
Plenty.
Thank you. Look at let's look at the payments gateway companies. Yes, all of them.
Stripe.
Right. Exactly.
Paystack, Twilio, all of them.
All of them.
You see. So what I have discovered is people first treated APIs as something that is for the technical boys.
Yeah, yes.
Or it's for the technical boys. The technical boys know how to deal with their APIs and all of that. That's what they treated APIs as initially.
Yes.
But now, I am 100% sure all of them is beginning to realize API
we can make money
product,
from this.
is a lot of money.
Especially
where you are now able to build a developer community around it.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I see on people's CV today that they know how to integrate Facebook APIs, and I'm like, nice.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, wow. It's good.
But you can see that the banks, and you see the banks and payment gateways, they are really cashing out from API as a product.
Yep.
Nobody's even seeing it as a technical need anymore. They are seeing it as a product.
It is a product.
Now, but there's one thing I like about these guys, yeah. They think in a different dimension, right? They are not thinking about how do we integrate. They are looking at their capabilities. Which of our capabilities can we make a reusable service that others can build on? That's what they've done over time. Look at how I can pay my loans. Say I get a loan from a loan company. I can pay my loans from the mobile loan app. How am I transferring the money from my own bank account to their own bank accounts from another person's loan app? Look at loan companies. How are they verifying KYCs? How are they verifying BVNs through NIBs? It's API. They are all making money. Say payments gateways, integrating API to online stores for payments. For every transaction that passes through their API, they get a percentage. So API is seen as a product, no longer as a technical need per se.
That's correct.
So I have a question. Let me read out the question.
Okay.
My question is, would you say API first architecture is fundamentally changing how financial institutions create value and compete in today's digital economy?
That's correct. Now, I have been in some conversations recently, and when I heard how top management was talking about APIs, I felt, oh, finally they are seeing the light. Exactly. Now, the truth is, before then, they treated APIs as something the developers do to make sure that somebody is able to work with them. But now, they are beginning to think about software. They are beginning to think about APIs as something that they could sell. Now, they were not initially able to do this until they did that initial audit of what they had.
Okay.
Now, based off looking at what they have
Mm-hmm.
in terms of APIs and what is to be exposed, they are then immediately able to find gaps.
Yeah, true.
They are then immediately able to find gaps in what they are providing to customers. And the people who are using these APIs are also immediately able to say, why don't you have a service to do this? And then they then go,
Yeah.
And trust a bank in Nigeria, the first thing they think about before they do anything for you is business that is coming out of that. Now,
True.
if that is true, and there's a customer that is saying, why don't you have APIs to do this? They see the business opportunities, even if that customer who asked for that API to be exposed did not see the business opportunities. I remember when BVN and NIN was done initially, they basically exposed APIs. Everybody that's authenticated could call it.
Oh.
And maybe you pay a subscription fee to be able to use the service. They give you a username and password, and it was exposed. Anybody that they gave it to could call it. But these days, if you call that API, you're paying. For every one of your calls,
I'm telling you.
you are paying.
Yes.
Now, if that is true, it means that that API is now a revenue generating means. Now, it also means that, in fact, if I, what is it called? Remember correctly, there was some talk about splitting the APIs into two. One that returns the picture and one that does not return the picture. So if you want the one that returns the picture, you get X. If you want the one that doesn't return the
You get
picture,
Y.
you do Y. And I mean, that's a business decision, and that's a business decision that is being made about an API. That did not happen before now.
Yeah.
It now means that everybody is now focused on, so that's there. So organizations that have been treating their exposed APIs as something that is exposed to everybody out there to use should now start thinking about how to monetize those APIs, because it is very important that you are able to make money from whatever is yours and whatever you have. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ramin. And let's talk leadership. You are in leadership.
Yeah.
So I'll just read this. Most organizations recognize the value of API first architecture, but adoption is dependent on budgeting, finance, governance, cultural change, and others. For CIOs, for CTOs, and other technology leaders, what practical advice would you give them for building an API first culture that supports long-term scalability and innovation?
Okay. To answer that question, I'd say three things.
Okay.
Number one, and very, very compulsory. Number one is API audit.
Okay.
You basically look at everything that you have and then move forward from there. What do I have? What don't I have? What do I need to do? What do I need to add to make ABC XYZ? That's pretty much things that needs to be done, because it would amaze you that majority of organizations, especially software organizations, have APIs that are working and in use, and they are not even aware that those APIs are there and are in use by anybody.
Yeah.
It would even also amaze you that there are APIs that are duplicated. In fact, not duplicated, triplicated, if there is anything like that. Repeated multiple times because some dev was very lazy about checking whether an API exists and just decided to write their own. And it would amaze you. So if that API audit is conducted and they are able to figure out what they have and what they don't have, that's a very good starting point, because they then know what to do. Number two is starting what I would call a design change. The design change is the fact that typically what would happen is the business or process owner is going to come and say, I want to do XYZ, I want to do ABC. This is my document. I have done it. Please go ahead. The developer takes it. Okay, yeah, I understand it. Maybe ask one question or two. They ask one question or two and they just go and design the API. No. What should be done is get in a room with everybody and say, we're about to do this. It is possible that somebody in that room is going to say, well, we have done this before with the other system. Why don't we just take that and modify it a bit and we are done? That is absolutely possible. Where it does not exist, but at least in that room, the API design thinking is already done. And that's number two. It is a must that there is a change in mentality. There's a change in the focus of how things are done by designing the APIs first and creating the contracts first, so that everybody in the room knows exactly what they are expecting out of the API. It is not when we finish the API, then we then say, oh, but you did not add the account number. Oh, I need first name. Oh, I need email. Oh, okay, let me modify it. Oh, I need to know the discount code of the customer. That's not when that is stated. If you had done that design shift and brought everybody into a room where they define exactly what is expected out of the API, it then becomes easy when the API is done. And then number three is when those APIs are being designed, they must design it in such a way that leadership is able to get information about how that API is working.
Correct.
Time it takes for the API to work, time it takes for the API to be called, and all of those. If everybody knows that management is expecting something out of a designed API, everybody's focus changes. Because now you are no longer just building. You are building because you know that somebody is going to ask you some questions down the line. And if you build with that in mind, you end up with better APIs that do exactly the same thing and obey the contract that was initially defined. So it is very important that this mind shift starts from the top, because it is typically somebody in the C-suite that's able to say, I think this is the way to go. And irrespective of the emergencies that they have, they still follow this process. Because imagine if the CTO or CEO or whoever is in charge, of the CIO, says, we have an emergency, but we have to do this process first. It is almost impossible for somebody who is below or maybe at the bottom of the ladder to say, I want to skip that process. Because you know that even your CIO is going to do exactly the same process in order to get you to the end. So you must. So to recap the three things, one is an API audit, which is important for you to know exactly what you have and what you don't. Two is a design change, where the original process where we just give stuff to the developer to go and do is now separated. And three is leadership getting actionable information out of designed APIs. If leadership is getting actionable information out of APIs, everybody who is developing that API would follow the contract that is defined and everybody can move forward together.
Thank you, Remy. Talking about leadership.
Yep.
I know as a CEO, you care about operations, right?
Yes, a lot more these days.
So
these days.
I want you to wear different hats. I want you to wear the hat of a CIO, the hat of a CEO that you are, the hat of a CFO, the hat of a CEO, and the hat of a board member.
That's a lot of hats.
Yeah. So, what is your, wearing all these hats, all right, what is your highlights on API first integration? Because it means different things to these different people.
So, first things first, the CIO or CTO has to feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
And be able to sell it to every other person in that leadership room.
Okay.
Once it is properly sold and everybody is on board at that level, it then becomes really easy to cascade it down. Because it then becomes, we have all agreed that this is how we are going. And that's how we're going. So it's like that story in the Bible where everybody agreed that they wanted to build a tower that was touch the sky. Everybody agreed. That's the keyword there, everybody. So if everybody at the leadership level agrees that they want to build that tower, they want to do that thing right, then every other person is going to fall in line and do it.
Yeah, true.
So that's very, very important. So again, as I said, the CIO, the CTO, or the CTO, or anybody in that role must believe strongly and maybe even align across everybody at that level. When they properly align, everything becomes easy. So that's my take at that point.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Remy. One highlight on today's discussion is that API integration is a must for any organization that wants to move to the next level in doing business, right? Because API first integration is now a business strategy. It's no longer a technical strategy. As enterprises continue to digitize and expand their ecosystem, the need to connect systems quickly, securely, and consistently will become a key competitive advantage, because enterprises don't scale through systems alone. They scale through the ability of those systems to work together. And that is where API first integration comes in. And so, friends, we've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining us again on the Build for Scale pod. And to my amazing guest, Remy, thank you so much for your insightful and amazing contribution. To be honest, I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you for having me. Wow.
No, seriously, yes. I have learned a lot from you today. And I'm sure we will hold consequent sessions together.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
No worries.
If this discussion was valuable to you, please share it with a technology leader who is focused on building scalable systems. Until next time, build intentionally and scale intelligently. Bye-bye.